It all contributes.
Exactly, all the things.
Sylvia.
Sylvia and
Percy.
that was right over here.
Yeah, I know they're right there.
Afterwards, we'll walk over
I
there.
know.
My words get stuck in my
Right
head.
as you come in.
All the places on the beach.
Harry, my
Here we are at the funeral of Larry Pincus. It's March 1st, 2022. The casket is being brought to the grave now.
Right on top of the.
Why'd you let Michael? I'll be here. Why'd you guys?
So then we just have to be careful to step around the lowering device. Make sure we come up over top of this. Once you get it on there, you gotta lift it. There we go. And another little lifty. There we go. And then one more. Perfect. We're a little more than a couple inches. There we go. Thank you. We're gonna go on one of the kids. Do you want it on top of the roll?
It is traditional. So we say for hearts that are true, we'll perform this and that's crazy inside the Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rabbi Shankman from Washington Hebrew Congregation. I'm honored to be with all of you today because we come here together and we fulfill one of the highest mitzvot, one of the highest commandments that Judaism asks of us, which is to stand with the bereaved, to comfort those who are in mourning, and to remind them that they are not alone. And certainly today, Larry Pincus's family knows that they're not alone, that they're surrounded by love, they're surrounded by community, and our presence expresses that sense of community, and also a reminder of a love that continues to be shared with one another, as we'll do today. We've come here this afternoon, perhaps with tears in our eyes and a heaviness in our heart, but it is soothed by precious memories, memories of love and laughter shared, smiles at images that warm the soul, and a love that continues despite the absence we feel so keenly. It is written that in every person there is a private shrine of memory and love, and in that sanctuary our loved ones abide. We sense their presence, caress their spirits, and enfold them in our hearts. They talk to us, they tell tales. Thus the pain of separation is soothed by memory, the hurt sustained is healed by love, and we ourselves become purified and ennobled through our sorrow. In the holiness of this hour, which is suffused for all of us with private and personal memories, which are precious and tender, and also with sentiments of abundant and abiding love, we've come together, family and friends, to honor the memory and celebrate the life of our loved one, Larry Tyrone Pincus. And that is the only time I'll use his middle name, because he hated it. It's on the sign out there, and he can't do anything about that right now. But we certainly honor Larry's memory today. And while we mourn Larry's death, we also know that we will continue to smile and laugh with joy at the moments shared. And we've joined together as a community to celebrate his life, to speak words of consolation and of thanksgiving for having been blessed by it. And so we turn to the sacred words of our scriptures. They provide strength and comfort. The words of Psalm 23 remind us that on life's path, we are never alone. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we read, "There is a time for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born and a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting the planted, a time for destroying and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, a time for weeping and a time for laughing, a time for wailing and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones, a time for embracing and a time for refraining from embraces, a time for seeking and a time for losing, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for tearing and a time for sowing, a time for silence and a time for speaking, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for war and a time for peace." In that same book, Ecclesiastes, we also read the words, "The eye never has its fill of seeing. The eye never has its fill of seeing." Young or old, those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. How they yearned for yet another respite from the final summons, and how we yearn to have Larry close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, yet another joy, yet another precious moment together. God be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, and however soon, it comes too soon. Console them at this moment, be near to them when light seems distant, sustain them, O God, until the time of healing. The Talmudic sage Rabbi Levi asked his students to imagine two ships laden with merchandise, one coming into port and the other going out. However, the people standing on the dock cheered only the ship that was coming into port, and a puzzled spectator asked, "Tell me, why do you cheer the ship coming into port but not the ship going out to sea?" And he replied, "We are cheering the ship that is coming into the dock, for we know that it went out in peace, and that it has returned to port in peace. However, the ship that is now beginning its voyage, who can tell what her fate will be?" And Rabbi Levi continued, "So it is with a person. When a person is born and begins his life's journey, we do not know what sort of life he will live and the nature of his deeds. However, when he has finished his life's journey, it is apparent to all what his life and deeds were like." And so we've come here this afternoon to honor the life and deeds of Larry Pincus, and to join in love and support, and to take consolation from the lasting images of his ship's journey. We take comfort as well from the lasting images etched in the hearts and memories of all those who loved him, as we join together to celebrate his life with his family, with his wife Carolyn, with his children Andrea and Michael, Jody and Robert and Marcy, and his grandchildren Stephen and Ariel, Danielle, Justin, Corey, Darren, and Jeremy, and his great-granddaughter Stella, his brother Donald Pincus, and we think as well of his siblings Roland Pincus and Phyllis Miller of blessed memory. Larry Pincus dedicated his life to his family, to his 3 daughters, to his grandchildren, as we will hear from them in just a moment. He was selfless. He gave unconditional love. He never complained. He was always proud of them. So proud that he bragged about his girls and his family to anyone and everyone, as everyone here knows. I see lots of knowing smiles and nods around. Everyone loved him. Everyone's friends loved him. He loved everyone, and he loved everyone's friends. He made everyone feel special and loved, and so it is with love that we will remember him, and through the sharing of that love with one another, we will ensure that his memory is always a blessing. Zichrono livracha. And so at this time, I'm going to invite his daughters to share their thoughts and reflections. So Jody and Marcy and Andrea, in that order, I believe. And just back up so they can see that.
When I think of my dad, what sums him up best is his devotion to his family, mainly his 3 daughters. He embellished our accomplishments, celebrated our successes, and bragged about us to anyone who would listen. I was often asked, "What are your dad's interests?" My answer was always the same: we were. Growing up, I remember him being with all 3 of us every weekend. Trips to the beach every summer were always memorable, as were other trips and fun places we went. He was always there for us and put us before anything else. He was handsome, funny, caring, friendly, and so kind to everyone. He was thoughtful and generous with gifts and his time. He had great style and was always fashionable. Everyone loved him. In fact, my friends were his friends. He took an interest in their lives and their families' lives. He loved hanging with all of us. If there was ever a problem, we knew not to go to our mom. We would go to him. His initial reaction was to laugh. He saw humor in any situation. In high school, he was a cool dad. He would write notes every Friday to get me out early from school. I think Marcy was driving his car at age 13, right after her bat mitzvah. He let everyone drive. There were no rules. If we needed something returned to a store, no tags, no receipt, no problem. He would take it and not only return it, we would get an extra free outfit. Unhappy with a grade, couldn't take a test, don't worry, he had it covered. We would tell the teacher when we were ready to take it and what grade we wanted. I remember going on the spring break trip in high school. He called and asked how things were going. I said fine, but our room is like a storage closet. It is so small. Everyone got a bigger room. He said, "Who's in charge?" I said, "Mrs. Maslow." An hour later, Mrs. Maslow was at my door. She said to me and my friend, "Girls, we are changing your room." Our new room was bigger than hers. He was so charming, I don't think people realized what they were agreeing to. He would wake up early to go out and clear off my car if it snowed and turn it on so I would be warm in the winter. When all of us had jobs and we didn't want to call in, or if we were sick or couldn't work, he would call for us. I was working for my cousins at the time, and my cousin said, if you can't call for yourself, don't come back to work. I came right back in the next day, and we laughed about it. We had a car, and our license plate said, "Our girls." It was so fitting. We were his girls. If there was something trending at the time, you better believe we would be there. I remember when the Jackson 5 was touring, there were no tickets to be found. It sold out in an hour. He managed to get us tickets through the owner of a deli, and we had floor seats. Marcy and I even got on the news that night. He took us to the Diana Ross concert. He got Marcy on stage to dance with Diana. Everything was a big production. He loved it that way and wanted us to be in the spotlight. In college, my family moved me in. He did everything, put all my stuff away and organized my clothes, arranged my whole room. I was watching TV and lying in bed. My roommate and I laugh about it today. She said, "I never told you, but I thought you were the biggest baby on move-in day." Now that I know your dad, I totally get it. He visited me in college often just to hang out or bring tons of food or paper goods, or one night up and back to give me cough medicine. After college, there was a hiring freeze in Montgomery County. I was subbing for over 2 years and working retail. Then I saw a school had an opening and my sister had worked for the principal. I set up an interview and my sister asked if I wanted her to call and let the principal know I was coming. I said, "No, let's wait." I went for the interview and answered all the questions. We got to the end and I asked if she wanted to see my portfolio. She just seemed very unimpressed. I thanked her and got up to leave, and she said, "You know, you had the job before you came in." I was so confused. She said, "Your dad called this morning." I normally wouldn't have taken the call, but I thought something happened to your sister. I came to the phone and he said, "Miss Jones, it's Larry Pincus. How are you? I wanted you to know that Andrea had a baby girl." He was so proud and continued to update me on everything your sister was doing. He was so happy. She said I asked him if he knew his other daughter was coming in for an interview. He said, "Oh, really? I knew she had an interview, but not sure where." She said we both laughed. She then said it also didn't hurt that he told me he thought I was the best looking principal and I had the nicest clothes. He always made everyone feel good about themselves and was so flattering. He made the best tuna, and I remember everyone coming over to eat it. He was the best dancer, always the first one on the dance floor and last one off. He would dance with all our friends at every celebration. I remember at my sister's wedding, he came into the women's locker room with our undergarments. Someone left them home. He was holding up each item. "Is this your bra, Jody?" A woman very sternly said, "You know he shouldn't be in here." I said, "I'm sorry, you tell him." She laughed and said, "It's okay. I can see how happy he is." She continued to get dressed for tennis. He was on a mission with me. I had guys calling all the time. "Jody, I work with your dad." "Jody, I met your dad at a doctor's office." He was always setting me up. He would set up my friends as well. I went to Alaska with some friends. We were literally staying in a log cabin with no electricity. I remember walking up to go in the place when we arrived, and there was a huge note on the door. It said, "Jody Pincus, please call your dad to let him know you are okay." My friends shook their heads. I remember taking a dog walking job. Then I was invited to the beach with some friends. I was telling him that I was sorry I had committed and really wanted to go. Not surprisingly, he said, "I will walk the dog for you. Go have fun at the beach." And he did. Someone called me and said, "I could swear I just saw your dad walking a white dog. Was I hallucinating?" I said, "Nope, it was him." Through the years, when I met someone and they made the connection I was Larry's daughter, they would go on and on about how lucky I was. They would tell me how nice he was and so friendly. He took a genuine interest in their lives. He was the best, most hands-on grandpa. He adored all his grandchildren. He talked about them constantly. He would change diapers, mix formula, knew how to use the car seats and unfold a stroller. He was comfortable doing all of it and never needed my mom. He would pick Darren up when he was just months old. He would throw the diaper bag over his shoulder, put him in the car and drive him to White Flint. I can't count the number of times someone saw him in the eatery feeding one of his grandchildren. Rob told me years later that when I left him with Darren once when he was little, he cried for an hour. He called my mom to help, but she wasn't home. My dad said, Rob, I can help. He was there in a jiffy. Rob said he took Darren upstairs to the rocking chair. He heard him soothing him, and then the crying stopped. He was like the baby whisperer. I was at a doctor's appointment and was running late to get Darren from preschool. I left a message for my mom that if she got this, please pick him up. I then left my dad a message saying the same. I didn't hear back, so I called my neighbor asking if she could get him because her daughter was there. She said I would, but your dad was just walking out of school holding Darren's hand. He called and said, I'm so sorry, Jody. I didn't get a chance to call and tell you I was getting him. Right when I got your message, I just ran to Bindham him. We could always count on him for anything. Rob and I went to Italy, and I'm not exactly sure, but we had to extend our layover in Switzerland. By the time we got there and to the hotel, it was hours past the time we should have arrived. I remember the phone ringing in the hotel, and I was thinking who would be calling us. I answered, and it was the Italian embassy. They said, a Mr. Pincus is trying to get in touch with you. He was so worried that something happened. Can you please call him right away? He was present at everything, never missed a thing for his kids or grandchildren. He knew everyone's birthdays or significant occasions and was the first to call. He also knew significant things in my friends' lives. He loved the movies and knew when every movie was starting. Him and my mom would see 2 or 3 movies a weekend. I used to enjoy picking him up at the assisted living place to see a movie on the weekends. He was always so appreciative and loved to go. He also loved TV. We would watch all the shows, and we used to discuss This Is Us every week. He took on the role of girl dad better than most. He knew the difference between highlighting, coloring, keratin, Japanese straighteners, regular manicure, gel, tips, etc. He knew fake designer bags versus real. He took us shopping and was an active participant. He would actually pull stuff off the racks and say, try this on. He knew every hair and nail salon in the area and the stylist. He was in the hospital recently, and Marcy FaceTimed me from there. I said, hi, Dad. First thing he said was, Jody, did you get your hair done? And is it a different color? He always knew. He called all 3 of us every day just to check in, asked about our day, our spouse's day, and of course our kids. Never mentioned himself. Ended every phone call with, I love you. My dad was selfless, never did anything for himself, just for us. The truth is, he lived his whole life for us. He never complained about anything, was always happy. We would laugh for hours about stuff. His smile lit up a room. When he first went to assisted living, he was not happy about it. It took no time at all for everyone to adore him. I used to go visit, and I would hear the women say, Mr. Larry, when are we getting married? Remember, I won't tell your wife. They would all tell him they loved him. I feel blessed to have had him for a dad. He recently celebrated his 80th birthday and celebrated so many important milestones in our family. He touched so many lives, and everyone who knew him was truly fortunate. My cousin and a friend of my dad's called him every week from Las Vegas when he was in assisted living. They knew each other since they were 13. He looked forward to the calls, and he told me every week that Murray called. They talked for 45 minutes every time and kibitzed about old times. I spoke to Murray often. I told him what a good person he was to call every week and how much it meant to my dad. He never missed a week. He told me that he wanted him to know how loved he was. That phone call will always resonate with me. He was loved by so many people and will be forever. I will treasure every day I got to have him for a dad and will always make him proud. I know he will be bragging about us in heaven. I love you, Dad, and every year on your birthday I will go see a movie. I will continue to laugh all the time, just like you did. I hope you know how proud I am to be your daughter. You will be missed every day.
God, I gotta go after that. Whew. I asked my sisters the other day if our dad actually had a real job. I asked this because I truly only remember his job to be taking care of us 3. He took care of us from the day we were born until the day he died. He literally did everything, everything. Not just for us, but for our mom and even our friends. He took his role of a girl dad very seriously. We didn't grow up with sports. We grew up with shopping, trips to California, the beach each summer, the host farm, concerts, countless dinners out, and more. My dad was always dressed in the best attire. He was so handsome and always looked perfect. Growing up, I always loved dancing with him. He had the best rhythm and would spend hours on the dance floor with me. He never missed a school function, from a school Halloween party to one of my countless talent shows. It didn't matter the role I had, he would cheer the loudest and tell everyone he knew I was the best, even if I wasn't. He was always my biggest ego boost. To him, I was truly like a celebrity. I could do anything, was the best at everything, could obtain any goal and get anything I wanted. It didn't matter what I needed done, he would do it, no questions asked. While these two were more of the rule followers and rarely got into trouble, it was me that kept him on his toes. I was him, not following rules and marching to the beat of my own drum. Countless times of getting into trouble in school, getting detentions for talking or skipping class, sneaking out of the house to go to parties or hang out with my boyfriends. He never got mad. He actually did the opposite. He would help me. While I'm aware of how crazy that seems, you see, to him, if it made me happy, he was all in. One time I got a C on my report card and I was scared to tell my mom. He knew I'd get into trouble, so he sat with me, pencil in hand, and helped me to erase it and change it to a B. We showed her quickly, hoping she wouldn't notice. He not only did things like this for me, but for my friends too. My friends grew up in our home. We would constantly sit at my kitchen table, laughing and eating his infamous tuna and wheat thins. When we wanted to get out of school early, they would say how they wanted to also, but their parents wouldn't allow it, so he would write us all notes and sign them so we all could. He didn't think of anything other than making them happy as well. That was who he was. We still laugh about the many things like this he would do. He only got angry over two things. After dinner, he would clean the whole kitchen and say the kitchen is closed. No one was allowed to go back in and eat a thing. Of course, my crew and I would be out all night and stroll in starving. We would have to tiptoe, opening the bags of Doritos as silent as we could so he wouldn't hear. The other thing that made him crazy was if anyone took my clothes. No one could borrow them. He would stop each one at the front door, inspect them from head to toe, and if he noticed any of my things, he'd made them leave it. In college, he would pick up my laundry weekly, do it all, and drive it back the next day. Justin now knows where I get this from, as I myself will do the same. I drive to College Park to drop off food, grab laundry, sometimes only getting a glimpse of him for 30 seconds to turn around and drive back, because he would have done the same. Corey, your drive will be longer, but I promise to do the same for you, maybe just not as often. My dad loved my boys and all their friends. He knew them all. He would come to every neighborhood Halloween party, every homecoming and prom, graduations and school events just to see them. Every time I spoke to him, he would ask how they were. Even this past year, when he wasn't doing as well and couldn't remember some things, he would always ask the same. Justin's still doing finance? He's so good with numbers. How's his job? Is Corey still doing his business? He's such a good boy. He's still with Natalie? She's so pretty. I never heard my dad complain once ever, even after every fall. One time, laying in a pool of blood, we rushed over to pick him up off the floor and asked, "Are you okay?" He would scream, "I'm just fine." Even when it was clear he wasn't. He never wanted to burden us. When he fell this last time and was at Suburban Hospital not well, I went and stayed stayed all day talking to him. I told him he had to get better so he could watch Justin and Corey's upcoming graduations on Zoom. He screamed, "I will be there." He will be there in spirit, proud as can be, and tell everyone he is now with that they are the smartest and best in their class. My sisters and I's relationship with our dad was truly like no other. The laughs have been endless, and our bond will never be broken. My dad, or daddy, was a gift, the most special person I know, and I truly believe he loved me more than anyone. I will continue to make him proud and live high up on the pedestal he always put me on. I will cherish him always.
My dad once asked me if I thought he was a good dad. Actually, pretty recently. Of course I said yes, but never told him why. I hope you're listening, Daddy, as I tell you now. For 56 years, I've been on an amazing journey as a daughter to the most wonderful dad in the whole entire world. My dad taught me the power of unconditional love. He believed in me and my sisters, no matter the situation, and loved us always. He was so proud of us in every stage of our lives. At every graduation ceremony, I remember there was a sign that said, "Do not go past this line." Somehow my dad did. He was right there when you shook the dean's hand at graduation, right behind the dean, getting the best picture of it. He got so close up. He was the original girl dad, as he loved having 3 girls and told everyone about how special we were. He often told me the story of how I could play a plastic saxophone as a baby in a playpen. And every time he told the story, I got younger and younger. I think one time I literally was just born and I was playing a saxophone because I was so smart. He lived and dedicated his life to his 3 girls. He never had hobbies or dreams of his own. He was the happiest from as far back as I can remember until his last breath, being with us 3 girls. He bought us a car and we shared it. It had the license plate "Our Girls" on the back. He loved that we had something together. He wanted his 3 girls to be close, share, and be there for each other. I'm beyond thankful for my sisters and love them with all my heart. He was never a lecturer, but instead a fierce protector of our happiness. That's all that mattered to him. He was so selfless, and his joy was watching us smile and reach our dreams. My fondest memories were every summer in a small car. He would pack up the back and he would fuss that he was never going again because we were bringing too much stuff. Think about 3 girls and my mom packing up to go to the beach, and we brought way too much. Every year he would pack it up again to go and have so much fun with us there. He would always do that and threaten us that he was not going back to Ocean City. And the fighting in the back of the seat. He would stop the car and say, "If you don't stop fighting, I'm turning the car around and we're going back home." He literally would give you the shirt off his back. One of the best things I loved doing with him on Saturdays when I was younger in Silver Spring, he would take us for all of the errands that he had to do. My mom was with my grandma Frida. They would go to the beauty parlor and go shopping and to lunch, and he looked forward to those Saturdays. He would take us to lunch. He would take us to the Tony and Mello, I think they were called, the tailors, and we would watch him get his clothes fixed. It was our special time with our dad, and I remember that vividly. My dad had a smile that lit up the world. He was handsome with beautiful green blue eyes and the biggest heart I know. He was a wonderful friend to everyone who knew him. My dad became a grandpa in 1990 and devoted his days to all 6 of his grandchildren. He attended their sports events, graduations, taught Shabbats, and school events. They soon became his shining stars, just like his 3 girls. He was so proud of each and every one of them. As the years moved on, in the blink of an eye, my dad's health started to deteriorate. And even though he slowed down, to me, he truly was exactly the same. Every time he fell, he found the strength to get up and put a smile on his face. I loved his daily phone calls and the way he reminded me that he loved me at the end. He never complained, but instead told us he was fine, even when he wasn't. When my dad entered assisted living, he became beloved by everyone there. He knew how to spread sunshine wherever he went. During the time period he was there, a wonderful cousin called him weekly and reminded him how special he was. The power of a visit, human touch, and a conversation should never be underestimated. It truly meant the world to him. In 2020, my dad became a great grandpa to beautiful Stella. She became his everything, just like his 3 girls. He had endless love in his heart for his family. Every time I spoke to him, he wanted to know all the things she was doing. He met her and held her tiny little hand. The picture of that moment means the world to me. I will cherish it forever. Daddy, if I could have chosen my dad, I would choose you over and over again. You truly made the world a better place. One of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. My dad made everyone feel special, as you can see. This was my dad, and now he's tucked away in my heart forever. Rest in peace, Daddy, and please look over us and continue to protect and guide us. May we learn from him the true meaning of unconditional love. I hope you now know that you weren't just a good dad, but instead the best dad in the world.
We're going to hear from some of Larry's grandchildren. First, we'll hear from Danielle, and then from Darren and Jeremy.
I would like to take a moment to remember the best grandfather I know, my Grampy. He was truly a one-of-a-kind man. As his used to be only granddaughter before baby Stella came into the world and Grampy became a great-grandfather, we shared many special memories and he took an interest in every one of his grandchildren and now Stella. My favorite picture features the two of us when I was little, and he's holding me up pretending to dance with me. Grampy loved to dance and called himself Lorenzo to make me laugh. He was a shoulder to listen, always asking questions about school and my internship and my friends, Waffles, and more recently, and never missed a moment of our lives. I love you, Grampy Larry, and will miss you always.
Okay, when I think of my grandfather, the first word that comes to mind is family. Family meant everything to my grandfather. He loved spending time with all his family, especially his grandkids. Even from a young age, whenever you were with him, you could always tell 100% of his focus was on spending time with you. The moment that most exemplifies this was a Georgetown basketball game when I was 4. About a day before the game, he was called in on late notice to see if he would go to the game with me and my dad. For many, the late notice would be a non-starter, especially for someone who wasn't a fan of sports. When asked, without any hesitation, he immediately accepted. He accepted not because he was a fan, but because he wanted to spend time with his family. At the time, I was not interested in actually watching the game, rather walking around the concourse and doing all the activities there. Rather than telling me we should watch the game and go to our seats, he went on babysitting duty for the entire game, walking me around to every store and every activity so that I could have a great experience at the game, even if it wasn't the exact scenario he envisioned. This event typified who he was as a person. He always put his family's wants and needs above his own. He always made time so that everyone could have a great experience, even if it wasn't his ideal activity or event. As I got older, he would always make sure to ask me how all the sports teams were doing. He did this not because he was a sports fan or had any care as to how the teams were doing. He did this because he knew it was something I loved to talk about, and he would always ask questions about it so I could have the joy of answering them. He made sure that both the big and the small accomplishments, whether it be getting an A on a test or a hit in baseball, were always praised and made a big deal of. He was always proud of both the small and big milestones I achieved. These were just some of the many qualities I admired in my grandpa, and I will always appreciate all the fun times and memories we shared.
My grandpa was special because of his kindness and love for his family. Some things I will always remember are going out to dinner with him and Grammy, watching TV, and having meaningful talks. My grandpa was always caring towards others, funny, and smart. He loved his grandchildren and loved spending time with them. No matter what was going on, he made sure his grandchildren always had fun spending time with him. Eating out was always a treat because Grampy let us get whatever we wanted, and we always had enough leftovers for tomorrow's meal. I will miss going to the movies with him and our family because it was always a fun outing. He was a great person, and all who knew him loved him. I love you, Grampy, and I will miss you every day.
to say a few words, but I think the girls have said most of the things I wanted to say. But his love and devotion for his family will never be forgotten, and I know when he had to go, he kept falling. And I would try to pick him up, and he had lost a lot of weight, but I tried. I didn't want to call 911. And after numerous falls and bleeding, never complained though. I never heard him complain of even a headache or taking an aspirin or something for a headache, never. I would try, and I called 911, and then they'd take him, and he'd go, no, they would get him in the bed or wherever he was, put him in the bed, and then he'd get out. I said, please don't get out of bed again. He had the walker or whatever. He would, I'm all right, I'm not gonna fall again. I said, please, Larry, I don't wanna call 911 again. And it happened. I had help in the house, but he would fall when they left. They couldn't believe it when I told them the next morning. So when I said I don't want to call 911 again, he said, I'll call. Oh my God. I said, then he wants a button thing to wear the alarm. I said, you don't understand, when you press that, it goes into a central call, and they come. I mean, I knew all of the ones who came. They were wonderful. But and then we decided he should go to assisted living. He didn't want that at all. So we said, you'll be safe there, you won't fall. But when he got there, he liked it. They loved him there. They all knew about his family, his children, the grandchildren. They had a calendar up. They knew when Stella was born. But then he said to me, and this was like how many months ago, maybe, he was doing everything on his own. He was walking with the walker, going down, he was helping other people who were in wheelchairs. One lady, she needed help. And I went in and talked to the director, and I said, I think he should be in another level. I said, he's independent, he's helping these other, and she did, she put him into another level. And then then he wanted to come home. And he said to me, Marcy told me she's going to pick me up on Thursday. I said, oh, Marcy, did you tell me you're getting him on Thursday? She said she didn't. I said, no, we're going to see. We'll see. He kept pestering me, and some cousins had said to me, they all say they want to come home, but don't. My cousin Teresa, she said, you're not going to be able to do it. Even with help, it's going to be very hard. But I let him come home. I felt bad, and I had another girl come to help out. And I was, again, he would fall when they would leave, and he would walk with the walker, and I was just so nervous every time I saw him walking by, because he was, and he wasn't eating. He would eat for them a little bit. He would always say, I'm full, I can't eat anymore. And then I think when it came time, I think he actually wanted to go back. I think he felt maybe that he was safe there. So I had to write a letter, and he had to go for another complete physical to get back in. And he went back, and they were also happy to see him. And then he just started he would call me at night and say, put channel so-and-so on at 10 o'clock. This is on, that's on. And I did, and then he would call the kids and wanted to say he talked to this one, to that one. And then little by little, he just started going downhill. And he was in the hospital in Suburban. He was in Shady Grove. And then Thursday, I called him at 9 o'clock, and I spoke to him, and he said he was tired. And then about 10:10, the head nurse there, who was wonderful, she called and said, that things weren't going good. And that, but I also, they always went, the girls went to him, because I overreacted. As I got older and they got older, I realized that I overreacted over things. And he would smooth things over and then tell me, and I still got like crazy sometimes, it was like, oh, whatever. Even after they were married, out of the house, I was cleaning out bedroom drawers, and I would find slips, the dental appointments and this, that. I didn't know from any of this. Throw them out, he says to me, they're married, they're out of the house. But it was like, okay, he took pride in all of his grandchildren and loved being a grampy. That was the title he took. And then when he loved going to the bar mitzvahs, and Danielle's bat mitzvah, Stephen and Arielle's gorgeous wedding, and he was so excited. Stephen gave him the title of being grampy. And then Stella arrived. Don't ask. It was like he became the president. Great grampy. And they were so good. They FaceTimed him, Stephen and Arielle. He was so excited. He had one of those, what do you call those things in his room? With the pictures? Digital. Yeah. And they always were so kind on putting new pictures of everyone and the baby on there. And he was so looking forward to her baby naming. which was going to be on Zoom, I think in a couple of weeks. But I believe he'll see it. He'll get to see it. But I know I said to him, I forgot when it was. I said, I'll see you soon, Larry. And the kid said, oh God, Ma, not so soon. But he should just rest in peace, and I love him, and the girls just loved him, and what else can I say? He loved every one of his girls and their friends, as you can see, and at least he's not falling anymore. But, yeah, take care.
These are only just a few of the many, many, many reflections and stories that can be told. As many people as are here probably have stories and memories that can be shared. And so I know the family is looking forward to being able to be with all of you this evening at 7 p.m. at Lakewood for Shiva. And one of the things that we keep in mind is that it's impossible to capture every story and every image during this time or this evening. But over the days and weeks ahead, it's how we bring comfort to Larry's family, is by giving them the opportunity to share these stories, by sharing some of our own as well, by reflecting together. And we all as a community also have this responsibility to share some of those stories with little Stella, and to make sure that she knows, as her older relatives all know and have experienced, the kind of love that he gave to each and every one of you. And it's by sharing that love with her that you'll bring true honor to his memory and allow his legacy to be a blessing each and every day. And so we'll continue not only through Shiva, but in the days and weeks ahead. It's what we do as a community. We support each other in this time, and then we escort each other back into life, because there is much love and life and joy to be shared together. And we know that we will miss Larry at those moments that we share together, but ultimately, by living them fully, by loving each other in the way that he loved each of you, will allow his memory to be a blessing. So we say Zichrono Livracha, may his memory always be a blessing. I invite you to please rise as we ask God to watch over him. El Malei Rachamim, Shochem Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Tacha Kanfei Shechina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Rakia Masirim, Et Nishmat Lezer Tevya ben Avraham V'Yafa, Shahalach Le'olamo, Bal Harachamim Yasirehu, Beseter Kenafav Le'olamim, V'yitzror B'tzror HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachlato V'yanuach B'Shalom, Al Mishkavo V'Nomar, Amen.
Amen.
God of abundant mercy, God Most High, may the soul of our loved one, Larry Pincus, who has gone into eternity, find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold him close to you forever, so that his soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May he find a home with you, and may he rest in peace. And together we say, Amen. Al Mikomo Yavo B'Shalom. May Larry Pincus come to his eternal home in peace. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we now lay within the earth. The spirit itself cannot die. Receive in mercy, O God, the soul of our departed Larry Pincus. Grant him that everlasting peace which you have prepared for us in the world to come. Though no human eye has seen, nor ear has heard, nor mind has grasped it, still it is our sure inheritance and our everlasting portion. O God, help us to understand that grief and love go hand in hand, that the pain which loss inflicts is the measure of a love stronger than death. Though we cry in the anguish of our hearts, may we be like children who know that their parent is near, and who cling unafraid to the trusted hand. In this spirit, O God, do we commit all that is precious to us to your keeping. May the love and eternal connection of our souls give us strength as we turn to recite these words that are hallowed by time. In sanctifying the name of God, we honor the memory of Larry Pincus with the words of Kaddish Tom, the mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadal shemei Rabbah. Ve'amad yifrach harutei ve'amlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'kol Beit Yisrael. V'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'almei amaya. Yisbarach v'yishavach v'yisba'ar v'yisramam v'yisnaseh. V'yishadar v'yishalel v'yishalal shemei d'kudashah b'riku. Le'elam min kol berachata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. V'amiram b'yama v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min Shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'romah u'ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say together, Amen.
Amen.
In Jewish tradition, to place earth in the grave is a mitzvah, a righteous act which we do without any hope of reward. And with this act, we take on the responsibility of caring for our loved ones until the very end. Because our loved ones deserve to be buried by kind hands, knowing hands, loving hands, sorrowful hands. All who are here are invited to participate in this mitzvah. It is a painful act, but it is one that is born of love and compassion for one who has meant so much to us. Adonai natan Adonai lakach yehisham Adonai mevorach. With Job we have said, God you have given, God you have taken away. Blessed be the name of God. May the memory of Larry Pincus be a blessing as we mark that his essence will never leave our hearts and souls. And we say together, Amen.
Amen.
So I'm going to invite family members to come forward first. There are a couple of traditions surrounding this act, and the first is that each person takes the shovel themselves and then places it back, allowing each person to come forward of their own free will. There's also a tradition of turning the shovel upside down. It's a little bit harder to get the earth to stay on the back of the shovel, as if we need a reminder that this is a difficult act. But it also demonstrates something else, which is that this is unlike any other purpose for which we use this tool. And so if you choose to turn it upside down, you can do that and then turn it over, as we also note that we move forward in life. And you can do, if you choose to turn it upside down, you can turn it over and do two more after that. So I'll invite family members to come forward first. Do you want? Does she want to, or? Okay, that's fine. Adonai, go your way, for God has called you. Lech v'Adonai hiya imach, go your way, and may God be with you. V'halach lefanecha tzidkecha kavod Adonai yaskecha. May your righteousness go before you, and the glory of God receive you. We invite others to come forward. You can actually, if we can have one on that side, there are 2 shovels. If we can have a line on that side and one over here.
Want a Coke? What?
We can also do it the other way.
Oh, yeah.